Welcome to another episode of the Strong Family Project podcast. I'm Joe, joined by Mel.
Welcome back to the Strong Family Project podcast, where we guide you on the path to raising confident, independent, and resilient children in a strong family environment.
Today we're going to share some stories about a lot of kids coming to our house and how we were able to manage that for a family event. Now, I do want to talk a little bit first on the last episode. We just stopped recording it. Mel said I was angry during it.
It did come off a little heightened in your emotional state.
If you missed the last episode on taking good care of your health through nutrition and why it's important for you as a parent and how to implement it with your kids, I suggest listening to that last episode. My intent was not to be angry, but I was a little bit. Like, seriously, people just got to stop it with excuses.
You're serious about it, and I admire how serious you are about it. The end goal is important.
Mel, on the longer episodes, we get a little special segment. We haven't been doing it over the last few, where I'll ask you a question, you'll ask me, so you can get a little bit more perspective other than our main topic, which was the visitors and how we implemented the strong family path with people who aren't directly in our household. Would you like me to go first?
Mm-hmm.
What's the favorite food item that we make?
That's literally what I was going to ask you. Okay.
Should have went first.
I guess so. Favorite food item. It's got to be the kombucha. I feel like I've talked about this before. I have it back there now. I love it. I love that I can flavor it in all different kinds of ways. Actually, yesterday night, you had said how good this flavor was. I think it's black cherry. And then when I pulled some out, Henry had some and he really liked it.
Why don't you tell people what kombucha is for those who... Because I didn't know until a few years ago. I was not in the hipster circles. I wasn't wearing sandals and socks and all that hipster stuff. I had no idea what kombucha was. And when people said, I'm like, yeah, that sounds California stuff.
Right.
That sounds acai berry bowls to me. I'm like, why would I care about kombucha?
I'm surprised you said acai correctly. Kombucha is basically fermented tea, and it has some seltzery quality to it. That's pretty much all it is.
The reason why we have it is it's very good for gut health. And tea is good for you if you choose the right teas. We use a green tea.
It's an awesome replacement for soda and seltzer water.
And is also a replacement for some people for alcoholic drinks. Mm-hmm. 'Cause it does have that fermentation to it.
And so snacking too.
Yeah, it takes the edge off snacking as well. So we're a big fan of it. However, it's super expensive. So we just looked up how to make it, and now we make it.
Yeah, we got 5 gallons.
Factory.
Yeah, we got 5 gallons going. It's funny because we read that you're not supposed to have the different gallons next to each other because they can somehow cross something. So we've got them kind of all throughout the house. So what's your favorite then?
Now, I was going to say the kefir. However, I want to go with something more normal.
Okay.
Because I had not heard of that till a few years ago. I'm going to go with the sourdough bread. Let's call them naans, or like a little almost biscuit.
Like a flatbread.
Yeah. We do the sourdough starter to make our own breads. And instead of going out buying wraps and naans, I'm getting sick of the preservatives. I'm taking more good care of my stomach health. And we make the sourdough. And we take a lot of discard, and we'll just turn it into flatbread and cook it on the stove. And then I'll put it underneath my eggs. And so that's like my quote unquote bread instead of using a toast or something purchased.
All right, my question, since you had all your brothers in town, what is your favorite thing about having all your brothers together? Again, this doesn't happen very often.
The banter, the witty banter of just busting each other's chops, no one getting sensitive about it. And yeah, overall, that sort of stuff. Now, the reason why we're going to talk about it on the podcast today is because we get the question of what if other families don't believe in what I believe in? And like, how do we go, or even people within my family, like, how do I establish my core values and stay strong to them when other people are around? Before we dive into that, Mel, what was your favorite part about seeing the siblings together?
Mine was going to be more about the cousins. I love seeing you and your brothers together just because I don't see it that much, and I get to see different personalities of who you grew up with. So it's like one of those, I wish I could have been a fly on the wall, so I'll just observe now things.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed that.
I do.
Now, I have 3 brothers, so there's 4 of us. The last one was getting married over the weekend. And the other ones flew in. They brought their kids in. One of my brothers, Dave, has 2 kids. They're really solid kids.
He has 3 kids.
They are the same age as our older 2 kids.
Oh. I thought you forgot about the new baby.
They also have a new baby who doesn't do anything. So
That's not true. He's almost
Yeah.
one. He does a lot.
the older ones do take care of the baby, and our kids love seeing the baby like fluffing its hair and stuff. So that was all very cute. You knocked me off track. We want to talk
Sorry.
about the older ones when we're bringing them in. And here's the interesting point. When you hang out with families, they have different values. Number one, it's important to respect the other person's values and understand that they bring a lot of things for us to learn. The reason why we learned our values, or how we learned our values initially, is from hanging out with families that we really like and be like, what is it about these people that we really like that we want to replicate in our households? And so while the values might be slightly different, and you're not trying to sell your values, you're just trying to show them how things are done there. Maybe they pick them up, maybe they don't. Maybe they say something like, my younger brother likes to play basketball in the morning still. He's in his late 30s, so his kids love just shooting around basketball. We went down to the courts, we shot around, hung out a little bit, because it's something that they wanted to do because they really like to play together. I don't know if they have formalized values, but I would say one of them is that they play a lot. They play a lot of sports, they play a lot together, they play a lot of games, they play a lot of board games. And so we integrated that into our household.
Like you said, we didn't necessarily say, hi, welcome to our family. Here's our core values.
Yeah, you're not trying to sell people. Even on this podcast, we don't talk specifically about our values too much, because it's whatever you want. We just want you to be purposeful in choosing whatever your values are.
And I think one of the main ones that came through last week was be adventurous. So that's one of our values. We take it seriously because we're always doing it. Even if it's something like Everett wants to go for a walk like 5 times a day, because now that he's biking, he wants to go do that. But when we had family here, you did an amazing job of living out the be adventurous value. You organized for a friend of ours to take them.
Yes. Well, first of all, you immediately proved me wrong when I was like, hey, we're not going to talk about our values. And
Well,
you're like, one of ours is adventurous.
I think we have to talk about it in terms of how we lived it out.
The catalyst of all this is the older one of my nephews said, hey, what's the Wi-Fi password? Now, I believe it's from good intent. Like, he was going to do his schoolwork, very studious, wanted to go check what the teachers had posted. He did his schoolwork in the evening, same with the other one. And so I think he wanted to get on it, but I wasn't going to give him the Wi-Fi password until he did a challenge. And so I told him, I'll tell you what the Wi-Fi password is at the top of the Manitou Incline. And he's okay. And then they scurried right up. They beat us by so much. So I was with 2 of my brothers and our kids, and they scurried right up the mountain. What was important to them is they were hanging out, talking, and a lot of people see that challenge as their first time doing it as something that's very hard. But it's, yeah, this is just how life is out here. We made it seem like that. Oh, this is just what we do. And therefore, it was just what he did. And the younger one as well. I'm not using their names intentionally because I didn't ask them to. I know what their names are. I think Mel was thinking, like, maybe he doesn't know what his nephew's names are. No, that's not what I thought. And at the top, I gave him the Wi-Fi password. And then we arranged other adventures each day so that we could make the most of our time. They were only here for 2 days and then the wedding day. Is that right?
Yeah, Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah,
Friday.
And we got mountain biking in twice. We got the basketball in, I mentioned. We climbed the Manitou Incline. A friend of ours, Rudolfo, helped us out and took us rock climbing, like up the wall and down. They loved it. It was the first time even my brother went. And 2 of my brothers went on that adventure. And I wanted to try to squeeze in as much as possible so that they could just experience things. I had not been out here. I loved it when I started doing those things. So my goal was to just share and not try to teach or try to be at like a higher level by any means.
But I think very quickly kids will just settle into their tech or whatever kind of being bored if adventures are not available to them. So I think even when we were rock climbing, only 2 kids could climb at the same time. And then Rodolfo brought his 3 kids as well. So there's 10 kids or
Tons
something.
of kids. That's a whole pile of kids.
And it was amazing to see how incredibly creative they were. Now, the nephews, this is their first time out here. They had never met these other kids. And they were out there piggyback riding, doing races, sharing the bikes. They were picking crab apples. It was amazing. And I bet none of them even thought once, oh, let me check my phone or let me look at this, because they were so busy. I don't even like to use the word busy, but it was so much excitement and creativity going on and just being outside and doing what kids should be doing. And I love that so much. And it was like the values just in front of us where they were living it out. You don't have to teach or explain it. It's just happening. And just you put a bunch of kids together and something cool can happen if there's no tech. If they're just bored, they'll think of something cool to do. And it brought so much joy. And your brother I think he was sitting back in awe. The rock climbing thing, especially because they can't necessarily do that where they live. But I just love this moment. There's something magical and beautiful about what's happening right now. And it's not just, oh, that was a nice vacation. This is like how we live. I think that's the distinction people need to make.
And there's an important learning in there that I do want to share for the listeners when they say, how do I pull it off? You set the standard and then you act as if that is natural. And so when the kids get up, they would go sit down there, text you, hey, what you doing? We're going for a morning walk. We're going for a morning hike. Okay. Like I just say the standard, like, oh, do you please want to go? Like some days we do, like, I don't explain it. Like, here's the standard of how we live. And they're always willing to jump in on it if they have the role modeling. If the parents they're like, well, I don't know. He's tired when he's early. Like some parents give excuses for their kids, and their kids would actually do it if the parent didn't give excuses. So just putting that out there to be aware of.
Well, this occurred to me. So sometimes after dinner, so Everett always wants to go for a walk. And this was the same case when we had guests here. And sometimes my thought is, well, I have so much to clean up. And we did have many people staying here, and I was feeding like more than double what I'm used to, which was really fun actually. And I think to myself, I got to clean up all these dishes. But my values point me to choosing to do the walk. It's going to be 15 to 20 minutes, and I will rather have washed dishes. Like, I think that's still a thought process that has to happen in my mind to choose the thing that goes with the values. And the other thing just has to wait a little bit longer. And then I never regret going for that walk. I never regret watching the kids have fun together or walking on the road or whatever. They were doing lots of mountain biking as well, which was awesome.
Chatted about this on a previous episode briefly, where we just have to readjust our perception of time. Our goal isn't to rush through everything. Some things need to be slower and some things need to be rushed. Like the dishes, who cares if they're like not perfect? But if to rush through that, to be able to go on the walk, or to go on the walk and then rush through that because time is tight and enjoy the walk, that's just so much more powerful to your life. No one's going to remember those dishes a few years from now, but they will remember the walks and the times you spend with them.
To switch gears a little bit, since moving, we don't see family as often. So when we are together, it's truly valuable time and quality time. It's not before we moved, it would be like we'd see the cousins at a birthday party or maybe at a holiday or something like that. And it was nice to see them, but it was never as in depth and like several days at a time. So we truly looked at that as valuable time. And to take it a step further, we also want to see the value in each other. So one of your brothers is getting into woodworking. And I think it's so neat. He's so passionate about it. And he's making he's very resourceful. And he's making these, oh my gosh, cornhole boards. Is it called a board game? I don't know. And he has a problem with it. So there's some leaking or something that happens around the hole where you throw the beanbag in. And Logan loves to 3D print. And somehow my brother-in-law brought up how he needs to solve this problem. I don't know if he mentioned 3D printing, but he was like, I wish I could think of this thing. And then we brought Logan in and they were discussing it. Logan ended up like teaching him
how to... And Logan's like our 13-year-old.
Yes, I'm sorry. Our 13-year-old. He's 3D printing at the library all the time. He knows how to design these things. He knows how to use whatever they call it, CAD, rotate it around and change the size. And they had this like really cool brainstorming session where my brother-in-law and my son were bonding in this really cool way that might have never happened had we not set the stage for Logan to learn how to 3D print. And then we had this opportunity where my brother-in-law is being creative and they came together in this really cool way. And to me, that was also us living out our values and seeing value in kids because they know a lot of stuff. And I know people will say, my kid knows more about my phone than I do, but I'm talking like actual skills here. Like the 3D printing skill that Logan has could solve my brother-in-law's problem. And I think that is so powerful.
And there is a tactic in there as well. A credit to him for my brother-in-law for speaking to him like he had value. And there is tons of value, especially in like play and creativity that kids have that we are a little bit lacking, and speaking to them in a more mature way where we're talking to them to learn something from a child. It really elevates them, but it teaches us a lot and it can re-spark something that we used to remember back in our early days.
You summarized the point I was trying to make was we want to make sure that the kids feel valued and that they bring so much to the table. You set up some of these adventures like going on the incline or going rock climbing, but once we were there, the kids like ran with it. And then you saw, I know we did a whole episode about confidence with rock climbing and our middle son, Henry, but I don't even know if David wanted to go. Like he was tired. It's a lot, the time change, whatever. But he went, and then he ended up.
I know you're going to get into it, but it's also to previous point, like you set the standard. Okay, hey, I'm tired. I'm like, okay. Do you want to do rock climbing or do you just want to sit here and do nothing?
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I'll go rock climbing. You just set the standard, and I just am who I am. Like I'm just not going to tolerate that. We have 3 hours, and then you're going to fly out. What do you want to do with this? You want to practice it on the couch, or do you want to go do something cool? Well, I'll go do something cool. Okay, well, let's go do that.
Well, now I have a tangent because it reminded me, we've talked about the Warrior Kid books by Jocko, and they're so amazing. And in one of the books, so there's this Uncle Jake, and he's teaching this boy, I think Mark. He's helping him get stronger. They're working out together. And there's one day when Mark, the boy, wanted like a day off. And Uncle Jake was like, all right, have your day off. And the kid ended up like laying in bed forever, playing video games all day. He was actually more tired than normal. It wasn't exactly like refreshing. Uncle Jake comes home and he's, what'd you do with your day? And Mark tells him that he did all this, nothing really. And Mark asks Uncle Jake, what did you do with your day? He's like, I did a workout. I went rock climbing. I did this. I did that. I don't remember everything he did, but it was all like fun, awesome stuff. And Mark, I think, realized what he gave up to just sit around and play video games. And I think that's the point you're trying to make, is someone might say they're tired, but if you set a higher standard and you see it as, what am I potentially giving up? Like that kid, then we would have come back with these amazing stories of like rock climbing and having a great time and these piggyback races, and he would have just probably regretted it. And that, I just want to take that regret, I'm sure we've all been there, and then the next time make a different decision. But it really is an opportunity cost thing.
I remember it was an awkward moment where he's, I'm a little tired. I said, okay. I just stared at him. Like, what does that have to do with what we're doing? We're going, like, why do I care? Like, that's not an acceptable excuse to not have an awesome day. Like, okay, you're tired. You'll be okay. Especially at that age. And yes, I know there's someone's going to say, like, there's reasons to rest. Yes, you should rest. But there's an opportunity cost, like Mel said. Don't do it when you're supposed to be doing something else. And don't stay up watching YouTube videos or Netflix and then complain that you're tired and expect to get out of living an awesome day the next day. It just is what it is. Like, okay, be tired, but we're also going to do this awesome thing.
That's right. And they were only here for a couple of days. And I think it is, like I said earlier, easy to slip back into I'll just take a little break right now. But it's okay, your loss. You're only here for a couple of days. Let's make the most of it. And then I bet every time, he obviously did not regret it. He was the one that ended up, I think he climbed the most out of anybody. Yeah,
4 or 5 trips up. He made it close to the top once. And he was one of the first ones to go because there's like a carabiner up on this rock. He really had to get up and over. He got up to the rock, called it good there, and went down. Then my brother Pat went and got it to the very top and then made fun of him. So he said, I'm going to go. And they were just in jest. And same with his younger brother, made it up and touched the carabiner at the top. So he won again. By the end, he's rappelling with like his hands behind his head. Like no one else would even do that, including my brothers. He had the confidence to do it. His confidence skyrocketed. My brother did it. He said it was one of the coolest experiences. 2 of them did it. And wow, that was like so exhilarating. To be almost the lowering by the rope is the heart pounding part. Climbing is not the bad part. It's getting the trust to do the rappel. But anyways, off of rock climbing, the point is there's so much that you can do, and just don't let these little excuses. Being a little tired is not a valid reason to avoid doing something during your day.
And I think there's an expectation, like as we're talking about this, I'm realizing when you're going to try something new or different, expect something great to come from it. I don't think that he went there realizing, hey, I'm going to leave here and have a boost in my confidence. Or I don't know. I don't think that their dad thought, because obviously your brother was watching them and you could see the joy and watching his boys accomplish something really great and the confidence they gained, just like that day that we saw it happen for Henry. I think if you have that expectation as of, hey, if I try this, if I do this, even though I'm not quite awake enough or whatever, something great can come from it. But I think you have to have that perspective to be able to get that from it.
And so we're in our last 10 minutes. It might even be a little bit shorter. I want to recap and get to the punchlines here for you. So when you have people over, still live the life that you're proud of. Include them in it and seek opportunities to learn from them in that process. And I will remember how my brother spoke to Logan, my older son, about the 3D printing. And I will try to use that going forward when I speak to kids, to really focus and make the eye contact and ask them questions and learn about what they care about to build that relationship. And I think that was an important takeaway. Also with that, make sure you're role modeling. Don't just get off your path because people are there. I know it can be awkward sometimes, especially when you have people who are like older parents, aunts, uncles that come over and you want to bend to the will of the way that they might perceive your life or whatever it is. I'm trying to dance around it a little bit. You try to act different when your parents are there. Still live your life if you're proud of it and you thought about your core values and you're living your version of the strong family path. Live it all the time, not just when people aren't there.
Here's another example. So Everett, we talk about this all the time, but he gets to choose at dinner who says what they're thankful for in what order. And when we first started doing this, if we'd have someone over, we would still do it, but he would like be a little nervous to pick the person that's new. And we always have to explain what we're doing. But this is the first time, I think, where we had 7 extra people or 6 extra people. And we're like, okay, Everett, who goes first? And we explain that person's going to have to share what they're thankful for. And he chose his cousin first. And it was really cool to see where he's, I get to share something? Like, meaning that the cousin whose turn it was. So first of all, we did not think it might be awkward for Everett to do this. We'll probably just hold off till everybody leaves. No, I think it's 2-part. It's he's going to get some confidence by doing this with newer people. And secondly, other families will maybe adopt some of these ideas at their own dinner tables.
All right, we're going to finish with one story each from the weekend. I'll go first. Okay. I'll go first. There's a very cool moment during the rehearsal dinner, actually 2 cool moments. When we were here at our house, we decided to host the rehearsal dinner for my brother and his now wife. And her family all came over. We hadn't met them before. She has 6 siblings, 3 sisters, 3 brothers. And their families were invited, and one of them has 5. 2 of them have 5 kids. Something like
one
that.
has 5, one has 4. No, 3.
They're all young kids too. They must be under
8.
Under 8. And these little fuzzhead kids, they're all dressed up, which was cool to see. And her father was sitting at our table, and it was just these little kids sitting around the table, like barely being able to peek over the edge of the table. And they're trying to eat these little cutie tangerine things, like peels going everywhere. And they're sitting there and eating these. And he was the only one at the table sitting right in the middle, which was her dad, Kevin. And he just looked so happy to have gone through, have his family, and then see them on the right path to create this next generation of kids. And he just looked so enjoyed. Like the kids, of course, were making all kinds of noises and everything. But for him to be a grandfather in that situation was very cool to see. And then shortly after, the kids all went outside while all the adults were talking. And Mel has a pile of rocks in the driveway.
I do?
Yep, Mel got a dump truck full of rocks and dropped it right in the middle of the driveway. And these kids, there's a herd of them.
For landscaping, not just for having a pile of rocks.
She just likes rocks. And they would just run across the driveway and run up this little pile of rocks. It's not a big pile of rocks. It's no taller than this couch. Maybe 2.5, 3 feet off the ground. They run up the top of it and then run back down and go across the driveway. And this went on for about an hour. And it was just awesome to see them just enjoying themselves, just run up this rock pile and run back down, and how simple their lives were. But still how intent they were to have fun and play, and were enjoying something just so simple.
And how much their parents were just so cool about it. One of the kids took Everett's bike and was like going down the driveway. Even I was a little nervous because I don't know these kids well. And the moms were just, yep, this is cool. And I just really admired seeing other families live out similar values to ours in terms of letting kids be kids, playing outside, letting them take some chances, and not being overly cautious with them. So I appreciated that too.
Happened during the mountain biking experience with one of my nephews, the younger one. Took a tumble right over the handlebars, and he's limping. It was a good tumble. Like, it definitely hurt. And I was like, oh, so what do you want to do about this? You want to head home, or do you want to sit and breathe for a few minutes and catch a lap after the next group goes? I'll sit for a few minutes. Like, he was very tough about it. He's not going to get babied.
Right.
It was a fall onto the ground. Got back up. It's a little hobble. Walked it off. He didn't want to be left out of the games or activities. I gave him the option, and we just moved forward. That's life. And then the next lap, he crushed it. And he won a third time as well.
That's awesome. My story is about relationship building. It's going to sound like boring, but
Way to sell the
I
story,
know.
everyone, as we close the podcast.
That's
Don't turn
terrible.
it off yet. I will throw some banter in somewhere during Mel's story. Go ahead, Mel.
No, it's really special. So we have an 11-month-old nephew that we had never met before. So this is the first time we've ever met him. And he came, and Henry's goal for this like 5 days that they were here or whatever was for this boy to let him hold him. Because, you know, at 11 months old, they're not always willing to just go to anybody like they do when they're little babies. They're more aware. They're more clingy to their mom. And he worked so hard. And finally, on the last day, we're at the wedding reception, and he's all dressed up and everything. And I love that.
Little bow tie.
Yeah, I know. They all dressed like their personalities. It was really fun. And finally, the baby just let him hold him. And he's dancing with him, and he's holding him all the time. And it was like this amazing... It was cool to watch how all week he had put little like deposits into that relationship. And then finally on the last day, the baby let him hold him and didn't get upset. I didn't get that chance. I didn't work as hard as Henry did. But I think that's just another reason to put, we're always putting deposits into these relationships. And then I love that he got to see the benefit of it before they left.
I have no sarcastic banter about it. That's
Yeah.
well said, Mel. It wasn't
Thank
as
you.
boring as I
No,
expected.
it wasn't. I regretted saying that as soon as I said
My
it.
story was about kids running up a pile of rocks.
I was going to talk about the rocks. I was like, maybe he's just going to talk about the table, and I'll get the rock story. But
No, I got the rock.
I
I got them
know.
both. The relationship story is powerful because we do look forward to like this magic wand. All right, well, let's just make this work. We'll force this kid into doing this thing, or we'll force this family thing into happening. We'll force this child into letting me hold him. But it doesn't work like that. You have to build up some capital. You have to do some constant, gentle pressure we talk about all the time. And then in the end, the payoff is going to be more worth it because you've invested time and effort into it. And Henry got to see that.
And I really believe that the experiences that those families had here will stick. Like that, I was so excited when Pat said he was getting married because I knew the whole family would come and we all get to be together and not, oh, they get to see what we're doing, but I want them to live what we do now and maybe it'll spark something for them.
You're going to get me going on my tired rant again. So my brothers and I actually talked about this. Like, how many times are we realistically going to all be in the same place at the same time? It's not a lot. People overestimate how many times they'll see their siblings again. Weddings, funerals.
I know.
And I don't know when else. We're in 3 different states now.
Yep.
And we like to have the good, yeah, we'll see you soon. So that might be 3 years from now. And you're going to let being tired keep you out of hanging out for one of the 4 days that you're here? No.
You have to ask yourself the opportunity cost thing. What am I giving up by saying this? And I almost think if that becomes a habit, what am I giving up? What am I giving up? Even my silly example of I'm giving up going on a walk with my son to wash dishes. If I ask it to myself in that way, I think it leads me to make the better decision.
All right, we have some free resources for you at strongfamilyproject.com. It is our free download of the Strong Family Path. We talked about some of it today with our core values, our family dinner, and gratitude practice, but it's all there for you, and it's all for free at strongfamilyproject.com. Look forward to chatting with you on the next episode.